Welcome to Policy Wire. I'm Dayan Rahmani, and today we will talk about an alarming reality unfolding: the steady and calculated erosion of India's democratic values. Once celebrated as the world's largest democracy and a beacon of pluralism and tolerance, India is now undergoing a quiet yet deliberate transformation. At the heart of this shift is Hindutva, a hardline political ideology that masks itself in the cultural legitimacy of Hinduism while pushing for a Hindu Rashtra, where citizenship is increasingly tied not to rights of birth, but to religious conformity and loyalty to a majoritarian vision. Hindutva, unlike the rich spiritual tradition of Hinduism, is a political ideology rooted in majoritarian supremacy engineered by the RSS and institutionalized by the BJP. Under its influence, the Indian state has increasingly been weaponized to legitimize violence, silence dissent, and marginalize religious minorities, particularly Muslims and Christians. This transformation is not incidental, but the results of decades' worth of ideological conditioning, now accelerated by policies that normalize discrimination and punish resistance, as hate speech moves from the fringes to the political mainstream, echoed by rallies and amplified by a complicit media. The lynching of Muslims and Dalits in the name of cow protection are not merely tragic aberrations, but deliberate acts of public terror. They are often filmed and shared with pride as warnings to others and followed by endorsements from political leaders who present these vigilantes not as criminals, but as defenders of national purity. The complicity of the state in such acts, through inaction, delay, or open support, reveals a chilling reality. Violence is no longer just tolerated, it is in fact rewarded. From the horrific pogroms of Gujarat in 2002 to the coordinated violence of the 2020 Delhi riots, where police stood by or participated while homes and lives were burned, the evidence of state-enabled brutality has become too consistent to be dismissed as coincidence or mere governance failure. These are not law and order lapses. These are manifestations of a state ideology that thrives on polarization, dehumanization, and the reduction of entire communities to perpetual suspects. Through laws like the Citizenship Amendment Act, the revocation of Article 370 in Kashmir, and the proliferation of anti-conversion and anti-love jihad legislations, the Indian government has created a legal framework that enshrines religious discrimination into the fabric of the state. These laws are not crafted to ensure security or unity. They are in fact designed to redefine the very meaning of who belongs in India, turning Muslims and Christians into political scapegoats while institutionalizing a second-class citizenship based on faith. Beyond legislation, the Unlawful Activities Prevention Act and sedition laws have been weaponized to crush dissent and decapitate democratic resistance. Intellectuals, journalists, and activists, many of them from minority backgrounds, have been imprisoned without trial, targeted not for crimes committed, but for thoughts expressed, and for standing in defense of constitutional values that are increasingly under siege. The resemblance to classical fascist regimes is no longer a rhetorical hyperbole, it's a historically grounded warning. Hindutva extremism echoes the same ideological architecture that enabled Nazi Germany's Aryan supremacist vision. The myth of cultural purity, the scapegoating of minorities, the manipulation of legal systems, and the use of populist rhetoric to rally a silent majority into a complicity or apathy. The parallels are unmistakable, and yet the global response remains dangerously muted, buried beneath economic partnerships, strategic alliances, and a cynical tolerance for authoritarian drift. As international human rights organizations from Amnesty International to Human Rights Watch raise alarm after alarm over India's democratic backslide, many Western democracies remain unwilling to act. Their silence bought by trade, defense contracts, and geopolitical calculations. Meanwhile, relations with Muslim-majority nations have repeatedly been strained due to blatant Islamophobia espoused by ruling party leaders, yet India continues to evade serious international scrutiny. The transformation of Hindutva into a form of state terrorism marks one of the most alarming political regressions in the global south, a reality where the instruments of governance are no longer used to protect but to persecute. Law enforcement now serves ideology, the judiciary bends to prejudice, and the constitution is slowly stripped of its secular foundations. This is not solely a crisis of religious freedom or minority rights. It is the unraveling of a democracy from within, where pluralism is vilified, dissent is criminalized, and justice is sacrificed at the altar of nationalist fervor. The international community must come to terms with the grim reality that this is not merely an internal matter for India, but a global crisis with profound implications for human rights and the future of democracy. What is unfolding cannot be passively observed. It demands urgent and uncompromising attention. If the world remains silent, it will not just be complicit in India's descent into authoritarianism, it will be endorsing a dangerous precedent. The cost of silence is too great, and the moment to act unequivocally and in solidarity against India's religious extremism is now. Stay tuned for more updates here on Policy One.